My sister-in-law's DNA test was meant to expose me, but it ended up destroying her own marriage instead. I met my husband James, in our late 20s, and we soon fell in love. We married after 2 years of dating and have lived a wonderful, tranquil life ever since. Our friendship looked unshakable, based on trust and shared dreams. We celebrated the birth of our beautiful baby, Nathan. Now 5 years old, he brightens our days with laughter, love, and boundless enthusiasm. We felt like the perfect little family, and I believe nothing could separate us. That is, until Sarah, my sister-in-law, decided to put a wrench in everything. Sarah and I had never really gotten along. We had an underlying tension since James introduced us. I attempted to be friendly, but Sarah clearly had other plans. She accused me of trying to overshadow her by wearing a cream-colored dress to her wedding. This wasn't even my option. Sarah had specified that all of her bridesmaids wear cream. However, on her special day, it became about me taking the show. She launched a temper tantrum, turning what should have been a happy moment into an embarrassing one for everyone. From that moment on, it was a never-ending game of sarcastic remarks, backhanded compliments, and petty behavior. If I put on a new dress, Sarah would comment, "That's nice, but I liked it better when I saw it in the store last year." If Nathan reached a milestone, she would try to belittle it by comparing him to her own son, Tommy. It was exhausting, but James and I always chose the high path. We did not want family conflict to spoil our lives. Furthermore, we wanted Nathan and Tommy to grow up together, like siblings. However, things took a nasty turn this Christmas when Sarah sought to stir the pot in unexpected ways. For Christmas, she gave Nathan one of those DNA testing kits that everyone seems to be using nowadays. At first, I didn't think much about it. Nathan has always been interested in science and enjoys knowing about his family history. But something about Sarah's smug expression as she handed him the equipment didn't sit well with me. I had the impression that this present was more than just what it appeared to be. Later that evening, James grabbed me aside, his expression concerned. He claimed Sarah had made some unusual, almost cryptic remarks about eventually obtaining answers and how the truth always comes out. A shiver went down my spine. It wasn't hard to figure out what was going on. Nathan has green eyes, whereas James and I have brown ones. Of course, anyone with a basic understanding of genetics is aware that recessive features, such as green eyes, can pass down through generations. But Sarah had been making subtle, passive-aggressive statements for years, implying that James might not be Nathan's father. Sarah's present was a deliberate attempt to sow doubt in our marriage, causing James to question Nathan's parentage. I was infuriated. How dare she use something as innocent as a child's curiosity to play petty games? But James and I wouldn't let her win. We knew the truth. Our love and trust for each other were strong, and we weren't going to let Sarah's poisonous actions disrupt that foundation. We agreed to allow Nathan to take the test if he wanted to, knowing that the findings would only confirm what we already knew. Nathan is our son, and no test could change that. Nathan, utterly oblivious of the tension building beneath the surface, was enthusiastic about the science behind the DNA test. He was excited to learn about his ancestors and where they came from. So we assisted him in the procedure, and he mailed off the gear. Meanwhile, Sarah's son, Tommy, had been watching everything develop with great curiosity. Tommy, a curious 14-year-old, opted to take a DNA test as well. Sarah's husband, Todd, felt it would be a fun family activity, so they also ordered a kit for him. What began as harmless curiosity quickly turned into a family nightmare. Nathan's findings arrived a few weeks later, and as expected, everything was correct. James was his father, without a doubt. Then came the shock of a lifetime. Tommy's results revealed that Todd was not Tommy's biological father. The reality hit hard. Sarah had an affair over a decade ago, and Tommy was not Todd's child. The discovery shattered the family like a wrecking ball. Todd was devastated. He had reared Tommy as his own, never thinking Sarah was unfaithful. To make matters worse, Todd sought a paternity test for their 7-year-old daughter. The results confirmed his greatest fears. He wasn't her father either. Sarah's entire life, the immaculate picture she had fought so hard to maintain, was disintegrating right in front of her eyes. And this wasn't a quiet, secret disintegration. The entire family was aware, and the consequences were negative. Todd filed for divorce and left their home within a few days. Sarah's world fell, and the once smug lady who had attempted to destroy my family now stood in the ruins of her own. The irony of the situation could not be ignored. Sarah's attempt to pull apart my marriage had simply exposed her own lies. Tommy was struck the hardest. He transitioned from a carefree, joyful youngster to a confused and heartbroken young adult. The man he had always called dad was not his father, and his family was disintegrating. Nathan, too, was impacted. He and Tommy had always been close, and watching his cousin go through such upheaval made him sad and scared. He began questioning why Tommy's father was no longer around, and it hurt my heart to watch him so concerned about his cousin. Sarah's life became increasingly chaotic as time went. Todd pressed for full custody of their children, seeking to limit Sarah's role in their lives. Sarah, who had always been the glue that held the family together with her domineering personality, now appeared to be a shell of her former self. At family gatherings, she was a nervous wreck, her face pale and her eyes red from sobbing. The woman who had before attempted to make my life miserable now appeared completely defeated. Then, one day, something unexpected occurred. Sarah reached out to me. She called me, her voice unsteady and teary, pleading for assistance. She wanted me to talk to Todd and persuade him to lighten off on the custody agreement. She was anxious to salvage what little she had left of her relationship with her children, and she was seeking assistance from me. At first, I was stunned. After everything she had done to undermine my marriage and cause havoc at every opportunity, she had the arrogance to ask for my assistance. I initially ignored her calls, refusing to consider aiding her. But as the days passed, I found myself wondering about Tommy. He was the true victim in all of this. Despite the fact that none of this was his fault, he bore the brunt of it. Nathan, too, was trying to figure out why his cousin's life had been turned upside down. I started feeling conflicted. Was it appropriate to hold Sarah's conduct against her children? Should I put my rage aside and help for the benefit of the kids? James, of course, warned me to keep out of it. He insisted Sarah had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. But I couldn't ignore the idea that I might be able to assist bring some serenity to the children involved. It was not their fault that their mother made poor decisions. So I found myself at a crossroads, unsure what to do. Should I assist Sarah, or should I let her face the consequences of her own actions? And now here I am, caught between doing what is right for the children and staying away from the woman who caused so much misery. What would you do if you were in my position? Update 1. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time to read my story. I did not expect such a large response, and your help has meant a lot to me during this tough time. It's been really difficult to navigate the emotional roller coaster I'm now experiencing, but knowing that there are others out there who understand and care has been quite beneficial. I wanted to provide an update on what has occurred since my previous post, and I hope it puts some light on the complex situation we are dealing with. Sarah is still contacting me regularly, and to be honest, it's getting tiring. I expected her to back off or cool down, but she hasn't. She is relentless. On one especially horrible day, she called me 3 times in a row, leaving lengthy, sobbing voicemails. I could sense the desperation in her voice, but after everything, it was difficult to feel sympathy. At one point, my husband James became so frustrated that he couldn't take it anymore. He called her himself. James rarely loses his cool, so when he phoned her, I knew he was serious. I could hear his wrath from across the room. He exploded, telling her he was fed up with her disrespecting me and attempting to manipulate our family. He made it apparent that this was more than simply a DNA test. It was about years of snarky remarks, manipulation, and her blatant disrespect for limits. Sarah did not take it well. She burst into tears on the phone, telling James that I had poisoned his mind against her, that I was the one who was keeping him away from his family. Hearing her sob like that made me conflicted. I felt a glimmer of sympathy, but basically, I was tired. After that chat, things became worse. Sarah's tone changed again. She began contacting me regularly, alternating between asking for help and accusing me of attempting to ruin her life. She was pleading for my aid at one point, claiming she wanted me to talk to Todd and help things go well. The next thing I knew, she was calling me manipulative, alleging I was jealous of her and her family, and that I wanted to end her marriage. It was as if she wasn't sure if I was her enemy or her rescuer. Honestly, coping with her emotional outbursts has been draining. I feel like I'm locked on a roller coaster that I didn't sign up for. Throughout all, my main focus has been the children. They are innocent in all of this, but they are the ones suffering the most. I can't quit thinking about Tommy and Nathan. Tommy's discovery about his biological father must have been traumatic for him, and it's evident that he's having difficulty processing it. It's difficult for me to see him suffer through this without being able to help. Nathan, on the other hand, isn't really sure what's going on, but he senses something wrong. We attended a family gathering a few days ago, and Nathan wanted to play with Tommy like they used to do. They used to be really close, almost inseparable. But when Tommy came over, I noticed an immediate shift in him. He was distant, reserved, and rarely engaged with Nathan. My heart bled as I saw the two boys, who had previously been like brothers, drift apart. Nathan continued asking why Tommy wasn't laughing or playing like he used to, But I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. Instead, I made up reasons, telling him Tommy was simply sleepy or had a lot on his mind. But I knew it was more than that. Meanwhile, Sarah keeps sending me lengthy, dramatic texts. She wrote me a note yesterday, claiming she felt betrayed by our family. I really wanted to yell. How could she feel betrayed? She was the one who made these decisions. She was the one who caused the situation. And yet, she refuses to accept responsibility. It's always someone else's fault. Mine, James's, Todd's, never hers. James and I have had numerous late-night discussions on how to approach this. We both want to do what is best for the children, but we don't know what that is anymore. James says we should intervene and try to help Tommy, especially because he and Nathan are close. However, he is also concerned about the ramifications of being too involved in Sarah's situation. We've been trying to strike a balance between being supportive of the kids and maintaining our personal peace, but it's been more difficult than we expected. Todd has begun to contact James, further complicating matters. He's been trying to make sense of things and wants to discuss the problem. James hesitantly agreed to join him for coffee. When he returned, he appeared more conflicted than ever. Todd is naturally devastated. He told James that he believes his entire life has been a lie, and that he is now struggling to figure out how to co-parent with Sarah in light of everything that has occurred. Talking with Todd simply made James feel more torn. Todd is a kind guy who is only trying to do the best he can for his children despite the nightmare he has found himself in. After hearing Todd's side of the story, James is even more divided about how to proceed. He wants to help, but we both know that being too involved will drag us deeper into Sarah's drama. It's difficult to know what the appropriate thing to do. Every time I see Tommy, I have an intense want to help him. He's just a child caught up in this calamity, and he doesn't deserve any of it. Nathan continues asking why Tommy appears so sad all the time, and it aches my heart that I can't give him an honest reason. The more I think about it, the more split I am. Between wanting to intervene and being terrified of being drawn into Sarah's tumultuous world. At the end of the day, all I want to do is safeguard the children. Tommy and Nathan deserve more, and it's sad to see them suffer as a result of their parents' sins. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm hoping we can find a way to resolve this without causing further harm. I'll keep you posted on what happens next, and once again, thank you for your continuing support. Update 2. Hello folks. A lot has transpired in the last few days, so buckle up. It's been a lot for all of us, and I'm not sure how much longer this will continue. But this is where we are now. First and foremost, Sarah chose to proceed with an official medical paternity test. She was dissatisfied with the results of the at-home DNA kit, arguing it was not a reputable source for making such an important decision. To be fair, the at-home tests include a margin of error, and I'm guessing she was hanging on to whatever hope she had left. But, guess what? The findings did not change. The medical paternity test confirmed what the first one had revealed. Todd is not the father of Tommy or their daughter. Sarah just created a deeper hole for herself. I was not surprised by the conclusion, but there was no space for uncertainty. Todd, in particular, appeared to be preparing for the worst-case scenario. But when the medical test results came back, I could tell it still wounded him terribly. He appeared shattered, as if the last shred of hope he clung to had been taken away. He had previously told James that he did not expect a miracle, but there was always a glimmer of hope that the test had been incorrect. Seeing the confirmation in black and white felt like the last nail in the coffin. Todd grew even more withdrawn after receiving the news. I saw it coming, but I wasn't expecting what occurred next. Todd apparently did some research after receiving the results and tracked out the man with whom he suspected Sarah was having an affair. Todd told James that this guy was Sarah's coworker for more than a decade ago. Todd had misgivings about their connection for a long time, but Sarah always dismissed them as work issues. Todd now understood what was going on. He recalled Sarah and this man being extremely close, attending work parties together and messaging late into the night. She was always making excuses to Todd, convincing him that everything was fine. However, it appeared that all of those suspicions were coming true. Todd decided to confront the person. He traced him down to his home and went there without informing anyone. Todd wasn't in a good mood, as far as I could tell. He was hurt, angry, and desperate for an answer. Things moved swiftly. Todd wasn't having it, even if the guy initially disputed everything. It immediately escalated into a yelling confrontation, and it wasn't long before things became physical. Neighbors heard the disturbance and phoned the police. By the time the cops arrived, Todd and the other man had been beaten badly. Todd was arrested for assault, and he now faces prosecution. It's a mess. James had to go down to the police station to help Todd. He bailed him out, but Todd now faces major legal consequences. He's claiming that the fight was provoked, but it will be difficult to prove in court. The whole thing is spiraling out of control, and I can't help but wonder if it's all because Sarah chose to hide the truth for so long. Todd is disintegrating, and it's awful to see someone who was always so composed fall apart. Meanwhile, Sarah has been scrambling to contain the damage, but it's much too late. Todd has now filed for full custody of the children, citing the affair, paternity testing, and fight as proof that Sarah is an unsuitable mother. Sarah is in a panic. She's trying to persuade everyone that Todd is the problem, labeling him a psychomaniac and citing the fight as proof that he's unstable and dangerous. She's frightened that Todd will take the kids away from her, so she's lashing out at everybody who disagrees with her. The tension between Sarah and Todd is growing by the day. Todd is furious with her for years of deceit, and Sarah is anxious to keep some control over her life, which is disintegrating around her. I can see the toll it's having on both of them, but I'm most concerned about Tommy and their daughter. Todd has been talking about moving out of state with the kids to put some distance between them and Sarah. He believes that the children deserve a fresh start away from the tumult. But I am not sure. I appreciate his desire to protect kids, but removing them from everything they've known could be more harmful than beneficial. And legally, it will be a difficult battle. Sarah, as always, is in complete meltdown mode. She's been contacting me constantly, alternating between pleading for my assistance and accusing me of turning James against her. Dealing with her mood swings is extremely demanding. One minute, she's pleading for help, claiming she's been wronged. The next moment, she's shouting about how James and I are involved in some vast conspiracy against her. I wish I didn't feel sympathy for her, but a part of me does. She is certainly spinning. But, at the same time, I can't deny that she brought it all on herself. It's difficult to watch someone self-destruct, especially when they refuse to accept responsibility for their actions. When I last saw Sarah, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she kept saying how everything was falling apart, and how Todd was attempting to take her children away. She denies that her own actions are to blame for this situation. She still perceives herself as the victim in all of this, which makes it difficult to communicate with her. She's attempting to transfer all of the blame to Todd, but anyone who has been paying attention can see that the situation is far more complicated than that. At this point, I don't believe we have any choice except to get engaged. We are already knee-deep in this mess, whether we like it or not. James believes we should help Todd deal with the legal troubles he is experiencing, especially since Todd appears to be the more stable father in this situation. But I'm concerned about how this is affecting the children. They're caught in the middle of a conflict they didn't ask for, and I'm frightened that they'll be the ones who suffer the most in the end. Tommy, especially, appears to be struggling. He's always been a sensitive child, but I've observed a shift in him since all of this began. He's quieter, more withdrawn, and clearly perplexed about what's going on. I can't imagine how it must feel to learn that the man you've always called dad isn't your own father. Nathan has asked me several times why Tommy doesn't want to play as much anymore, and each time it crushes my heart. I'm not sure how to explain it to him in a way that he will understand. The situation is spiraling out of control, and I have no idea how it will end. Every time I think it can't be any worse, something new happens, dragging us all deeper into the insanity. We're simply trying to take things one day at a time and hope for the best. But it's difficult to be hopeful when the future appears so uncertain. I'll keep you all posted as things go, but for the time being, we're simply holding on and hoping for a resolution that won't absolutely destroy these kids' lives. Update 3. Hello, everyone, it is time for the final update. A lot has transpired since my last post, and I believe things are finally starting to settle. We're not totally out of the woods yet, despite the roller coaster ride we've had. But it appears that the worst is behind us. I've been contemplating everything, and I wanted to express how things have progressed. First, let us discuss Todd and the man Sarah had an affair with. You're all aware that Todd was detained after the confrontation became physical. What I didn't mention earlier is that the issue worsened even further. Initially, we believed Todd would face substantial charges for the incident. However, in an unexpected change of events, the guy chose not to press charges. Todd told us that this man wants to disassociate himself from the whole affair. He was probably aware that his engagement may make matters worse for him, both personally and professionally. While he admitted to the affair when the police arrived, he has now severed relations with both Todd and Sarah. In some ways, that chapter of the story has come to an end, and to be honest, I believe it is for the better. Todd does not need to continue battling with someone who clearly has no regard for the consequences of his actions. Now, the bit regarding the kids has been the most emotionally draining for everyone. Todd had initially applied for full custody of Tommy and his younger sister, which understandably caused Sarah to panic. Todd, however, had a breakthrough following some difficult meetings with his lawyer and some profound thought. He recognized that no matter what the paternity test showed, Tommy and his sister were still his children. He has been their father since birth, nurturing, loving, and guiding them. That relationship cannot be severed with a DNA test. Todd informed James and me that he is no longer fighting for custody out of anger or vengeance. Instead, he is doing it to protect the children from the upheaval Sarah has caused. He is desperate to protect them from the consequences of her conduct, and he has been absolutely amazing throughout. It's evident how much he adores those children, and that has been his primary emphasis in everything. He has made it a point to remind them that whatever happens between him and Sarah, they will always be his children. He loves them unconditionally and isn't going away. Todd's handling of the chat with the children was exceptional. He sat them down and described the problem in an age-appropriate manner, not giving them too much information, but just enough to understand why things were changing. He told them that they had done nothing wrong and that this was not their fault. Tommy, in particular, has struggled to digest everything. I believe Todd's assurance that he is still Tommy's father, no matter what, helped to alleviate some of his bewilderment and anguish. Tommy is still struggling, but he isn't as lost as previously. Sarah, on the other hand, has been an absolute wreck. She's still in full panic mode, urgently attempting to save her relationship with the children. But she's not doing it the right way. Instead of focusing on their emotional needs, she has been preoccupied with her own issues, such as managing her public image and cleaning up the mess she caused. Meanwhile, Todd has been attending their school events, driving them to doctor's appointments, and ensuring their well-being. It's terrible to see, but Sarah seems more concerned with how things appear on the outside than what's going on inside her family. The custody battle is still underway, but Todd has shifted his strategy. He is now advocating for shared custody rather than full custody, recognizing that the children still need their mother in their life, despite everything. Todd is attempting to be the bigger person here, acknowledging that, as damaging as Sarah's actions have been, the children should not lose their relationship with her entirely. Nonetheless, Todd continues to advocate for primary custody because he has been the more stable father throughout. He wants to provide the children a sense of stability and normalcy, which they have been missing for a long time. Based on what we've heard, the court appears to be siding with Todd. He has proved that he is the one who provides stability for the children, and his love for them is obvious. Unfortunately, Sarah is not helping her own cause. She's still making everything about her, portraying herself as the victim and citing Todd's previous outburst as proof that he's unfit. But everyone involved understands Todd's outburst was motivated by hurt, and he's been doing everything he can to move on in a healthy way. Sarah and Todd's marriage is over. The divorce is underway, and there is no going back. Todd is now at peace with this. He's told James and me that he's no longer furious at Sarah, just sad. It's sad to think about what could have been. I'm sorry their relationship ended the way it did. It is unfortunate that it has had such an influence on the children. But he is also focused on going forward. Todd's top priority right now is his children, and he's doing everything he can to be the best father possible. James and I are doing well despite all of this. It's been difficult to see everything unfold, but we've tried to be supportive without becoming overly involved in the drama. Nathan and Tommy remain as close as ever, and we've been making sure the boys spend time together to assist Tommy cope. I think it's been beneficial for both of them to have that connection, especially because everything else feels so unstable. One thing I've learned from all of this is how resilient children can be when surrounded by love. Despite the tumult, Todd's love for his children has served as a stabilizing force, keeping them on track. We've all tried to help, but in the end, Todd's strength and determination will see them through this. I'd also like to take a moment to thank everyone for their tremendous support. I never dreamed that a DNA test would change my life so dramatically, but here we are. Your wisdom, good words, and support have helped me more than I can express. Navigating this scenario has been difficult at times, but knowing that there are others who care and understand has made all the difference. I'm hoping that this will be the final significant update I need to provide. Things are still in motion, but I am hopeful that the worst is behind us. The kids are still surrounded by affection, which is ultimately what matters. Thank you again for staying with me on this trip. Let's hope the next chapter is one of healing and harmony. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.